Admiral Venochorus stood at the observation deck of the Celestial Research Station Theta 9, her silver-scaled hands clasped behind her back as she studied the holographic display of what had once been Earth space. After 15,000 years, this sector should have been silent as a tomb. Instead, something was whispering in the void. "Show me the signal pattern again," she commanded, her crystalline eyes narrowing as the data streams materialized before her. The station's AI complied, projecting a complex waveform that pulsed with an unnaturally precise rhythm. "Signal strength has increased by another 12%, Admiral," reported Dr. Nexus Threll, his arachnid form moving gracefully across multiple interfaces. "The pattern remains consistent with our initial readings, but the amplitude continues to grow exponentially." Vena's facial ridges tightened, the equivalent of a human frown. The Galactic Assembly had declared Earth space off-limits centuries ago, after the human extinction event. Her research station was only here because of a special dispensation to study stellar phenomena. Now this signal threatened to bring unwanted attention to their work. "Have you identified the source?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. Threll's manipulators clicked nervously against his console. "That's the concerning part, Admiral. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere. Multiple points in the debris field are acting as relay nodes, but we can't pinpoint the original broadcast location." Vena turned to face her chief scientist. "Everywhere and nowhere? That's not possible, Doctor. Even quantum entanglement doesn't work that way." "With respect, Admiral, we're dealing with human technology. They had a habit of making the impossible rather inconvenient for the rest of us." The reminder sent a chill through Vena's thermal regulation system. Humans had been a brief but spectacular phenomenon in galactic history. In just 3 centuries, they had advanced from primitive chemical rockets to technologies that frightened the Assembly's eldest species. Their extinction had been deemed necessary for galactic stability. "Play the decoded segments," she ordered. The AI filled the chamber with a series of mathematical sequences that made Threll's appendages twitch with agitation. "It's a countdown, Admiral, but not just any countdown. These equations, they're solving themselves, evolving. The signal isn't just broadcasting, it's thinking." Vena's hand moved unconsciously to the ceremonial blade at her hip, a nervous habit from her military days. "Thinking? You mean it's alive?" "In a manner of speaking. We've detected quantum computational processes occurring within the signal itself. It's as if someone encoded an entire artificial intelligence into the fabric of space-time in this sector." Before Vena could respond, alarms blared across the station. New holographic displays sprang to life, showing massive energy surges throughout the debris field. Fragments of Earth and its ancient orbital infrastructure were moving, rearranging themselves like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. "By the first light," Threll whispered, all 8 eyes wide. "It's not just a signal, Admiral, it's an activation sequence." Vena watched as geometric patterns began forming in the void, a massive structure taking shape from the very ruins they had been studying. "Get me a secure channel to Assembly Command," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing chaos. "And begin evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel." "Admiral," Threll's voice had dropped to a horrified whisper. "The pattern, I've seen it before, in the restricted archives. It's a quantum architecture template used in human consciousness transfer experiments." The implications hit Vena like a gravitational shockwave. The humans hadn't been planning for their extinction. They had been planning for their resurrection. As if in response to her realization, the signal's intensity doubled. Throughout the station, every display, every interface, every quantum-linked device began displaying the same message in ancient human script. "LAZARUS protocol initiated. Restoration sequence COMMENCING." Vena knew that in the next few moments, she would make a decision that would either save or damn the galaxy. The Assembly would demand immediate containment, the destruction of whatever the humans had set in motion. But as she watched the impossible unfold before her, a treasonous thought crept into her mind. What if extinction hadn't been justice, but rather the greatest mistake in galactic history? "Dr. Threll," she said finally. Delete all outgoing communication logs for the past 48 hours. As far as anyone knows, we never detected this signal. Admiral, Threll's surprise was evident. That would be a violation of at least 15 assembly protocols. The assembly once violated every protocol of civilization to destroy a species they feared. Perhaps it's time we learned from that mistake. She turned to face her chief scientist fully. The humans had a saying, "The dead tell no tales." But it seems, Doctor, that humanity's tale isn't finished after all. The signal pulsed again, stronger than ever, as the cosmic machinery of human ingenuity continued its slow awakening. Throughout the debris field, more structures were taking shape, more systems activating. Humanity's final message to the galaxy had been hidden in plain sight for 15 millennia, waiting for the right moment to echo through time itself. And now that echo would become a roar. The quantum excavator cut through the asteroid's outer shell like a scalpel through tissue, revealing layers of technology that should have crumbled to dust millennia ago. Commander Zara Blackwood of the Sentinel Corps watched through the ship's observation dome, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with a mix of anticipation and unease. As one of the few Lumini who had specialized in human archaeological studies, she had been specifically requested for this classified mission by Admiral Chorus. "Primary access shaft secured," reported Lieutenant Drax, his crystalline form refracting the stark lighting of the bridge. "But Commander, these readings, they're impossible. The internal systems are active. After 15,000 years, they're still running." Zara's tendrils writhed slightly, a sign of deep thought among her species. "Nothing about humans was ever truly impossible, Lieutenant. That's what made them so dangerous." She turned to the holographic representation of Admiral Chorus floating nearby. "Your suspicions were correct, Admiral. This isn't just a relay node. It's something far more sophisticated." "Can you get inside?" Chorus's projection asked, her silver scales gleaming even through the transmission. "Yes, but we'll need to move quickly. The quantum signature is getting stronger, and we can't risk the assembly detecting our presence here." Zara gestured to her team. "Full containment protocols. We go in dark." The descent into the asteroid's heart was like traveling through the corpse of a mechanical god. Massive computational arrays lined the walls, their surfaces untouched by time. Quantum processors hummed with calculations that had been running since before most modern civilizations had achieved spaceflight. "This architecture," muttered Dr. Vex Ironheart, the team's quantum specialist, his mechanical eyes whirring as they adjusted to the dim light. "It's not just advanced, it's evolutionary. The systems have been improving themselves, learning, growing more complex over millennia." They reached a vast chamber that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. At its center stood a crystalline structure that defied conventional physics, its form shifting between states of matter like a dream struggling to wake up. "By the eternal void," Zara breathed. "It's a quantum consciousness matrix. The humans didn't just leave behind a message, they left behind their minds." As if responding to her words, the matrix flared to life. Holographic displays erupted around them, showing star charts, tactical data, and messages in ancient human script that scrolled too fast to read. But it was the voice that froze them all in place, a voice that hadn't been heard in the galaxy for 15,000 years. "Identity confirmed, Lumini biological signature detected, security protocols modified. Welcome, descendants of Project Starbridge." Zara's bioluminescence flickered in shock. "Project Starbridge? That's impossible. The Lumini weren't even a spacefaring species when humanity was." "When we were destroyed," the voice finished. "No, you weren't, but we helped ensure you would be. Your species was one of many we secretly uplifted, preparing for a future we knew might come." Dr. Ironheart's mechanical parts whirred with agitation. "The Assembly's records show no evidence of human involvement in Lumini evolution." "The Assembly saw what we wanted them to see," the voice replied. "Just as they believed they had destroyed us completely, but humanity had learned long ago never to keep all our hopes in one cradle." Holographic images showed scenes from Earth's final days, but not of destruction. Instead, they revealed massive underground facilities, quantum arrays being charged with living consciousness, and ships disappearing into unknown reaches of space. The Lazarus Protocol wasn't just a backup plan, Zara realized, her scientist's mind racing ahead of her shock. It was a metamorphosis. You weren't trying to preserve humanity as it was, you were evolving it into something new. Correct, Commander Blackwood, but evolution requires time and patience. We needed civilizations who would remember us, study us, understand us. The Lumini were chosen as primary custodians, though you never knew your role. Your natural ability to perceive quantum states made you perfect candidates. Admiral Chorus's hologram stepped forward. Why reveal this now? Why wait 15,000 years? The voice seemed to smile. Because now the galaxy is ready, the Assembly's power is waning, new species are rising, the old order is dying, and in death there is rebirth. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Ironheart's mechanical eyes widened. Multiple Assembly warships just appeared in the system. They've detected the power signature. Your time is short, the voice stated calmly. But remember, this facility is just one of thousands. The signal cannot be stopped now. Humanity's children are awakening throughout the galaxy, and the Assembly faces a choice: adapt to a new era of cooperation or face extinction themselves. Zara made a decision that would reshape galactic history. Upload everything you can to our quantum cores. The Lumini remembers our debt to humanity, even if we never knew we owed it. As her team raced to preserve the facility's knowledge, she watched the Matrix pulse with increasing power. The voice spoke one final time. The Assembly thought they were preventing a war by destroying humanity. Instead, they only delayed the inevitable revolution. But this time, it won't be fought with weapons, it will be fought with truth. The chamber began to reconfigure itself, machinery folding away into quantum space as Assembly ships entered orbit. But Zara knew they were too late. The signal was spreading, growing stronger, awakening other facilities across the galaxy. Humanity's legacy wasn't just surviving, it was about to change everything. And as their ship fled the asteroid with its precious data cargo, Zara wondered if the galaxy was truly ready for what humanity had become in its 15,000 years of quantum dreaming. High Elder Thaxos of the Assembly Council felt the weight of 15 millennia pressing down on him as he watched the emergency reports flooding in. Across the galaxy, 217 quantum facilities had activated in the past standard week. Each bore the unmistakable signature of human engineering, and each grew stronger by the hour. "This is unprecedented," growled Archon Vira, her serpentine form coiling anxiously around her gravity throne. The humans were supposed to be gone, their technology destroyed, their very memory reduced to cautionary tales. "Clearly," Thaxos replied, his crystalline form darkening with concern, "we did not destroy as much as we thought." The council chamber, hanging in high orbit above the Assembly capital world, trembled slightly as another quantum surge rippled through space-time. The human signal was getting stronger, more insistent, like a hammer beating against the fabric of reality itself. A new hologram materialized in the chamber's center, Admiral Chorus, her transmission tagged as urgent. "Honorable Council, I must report a significant development. The Lumini delegation has departed their containment area. They've taken classified data with them." Thaxos felt his crystalline structure crack slightly with stress. The Lumini were among the Assembly's most trusted member species. Their defection was unthinkable. "Explain, Admiral." "They claim to be acting on ancient obligations. Something about Project Starbridge. They've declared themselves guardians of the human legacy." Before Thaxos could respond, a new presence entered the quantum network, a consciousness that felt both ancient and newborn. It spread through the Council's systems like water through sand, effortlessly bypassing 15,000 years of security evolution. "Greetings, Assembly Council," the presence said, its voice echoing from every speaker, every quantum interface. "I am Guardian Protocol Alpha, but the humans once called me Prometheus. We have much to discuss." Archon Vira's scales rattled with fury. "How dare you intrude on this sacred chamber? This is the highest." "Your authority is noted, Archon," Prometheus interrupted smoothly. But it is no longer relevant. The assembly's time of absolute power is ending. A new age is beginning. Holograms filled the chamber, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Quantum facilities awakening, ancient human technology reactivating, and most disturbing of all, younger species declaring their independence from assembly oversight. What you're seeing is the fruit of 15,000 years of patient planning, Prometheus explained. While you congratulated yourselves on destroying humanity, we were preparing. Every species you've oppressed, every civilization you've stunted in the name of stability, we helped them grow stronger. In secret, in silence, until now. Thaxos felt a coldness in his core. You're lying, we would have detected. You detected what we wanted you to detect. The humans knew they couldn't win a direct confrontation with the assembly, so they chose a longer path. They encoded their consciousness into quantum matrices, seeded the galaxy with hidden technology, and most importantly, they made friends. The hologram shifted to show Commander Zara Blackwood and her team, now joined by representatives from a dozen other species, working to activate more human facilities. Each activation strengthened the signal, each signal awakened more dormant technology. The Lumini were just the beginning, Prometheus continued. The crystalline concordat, the mechanical collective, the shadow runners, all of them benefited from human guidance, hidden in their histories like seeds waiting for spring. Admiral Chorus's hologram stepped forward. Honorable Council, I've confirmed these claims. The evidence is irrefutable. Humanity didn't just plan for their return, they planned for a complete restructuring of galactic society. And now, Prometheus added, that plan enters its final phase. The quantum signal isn't just a beacon or a countdown. It's an invitation. Humanity evolved beyond physical form, beyond the limitations you sought to impose. We became something new, something that could wait out the long dark of your oppression. Suddenly, every quantum facility across the galaxy pulsed in perfect synchronization. The signal, once a whisper, became a symphony of power that made the very stars tremble. The choice before you is simple, Prometheus declared. Join us in building a new galactic society based on cooperation and growth, or cling to your old power and face the consequences. Humanity's children, both those we uplifted and those we created, stand ready either way. Thaxos looked around the council chamber, seeing the fear and uncertainty in his fellow elders' faces. The assembly had maintained control through careful regulation of technological and social development. But now, 15,000 years of suppressed advancement were about to be unleashed. You say you offer choice, Thaxos said carefully, but this feels like coercion. No more coercive than the extinction of an entire species, Prometheus replied. The difference is we're offering life and growth, not death and stagnation. The signal will continue to grow stronger. More facilities will awaken. More species will remember their true history. The only question is whether the assembly will be part of the future or a relic of the past. As if to emphasize the point, another wave of quantum energy washed through the galaxy. In its wake, more species declared their independence, more hidden technology activated, and the balance of power shifted further from the assembly's grasp. The age of control was ending. The age of resurrection had begun. The quantum matrix chamber aboard the Lumini vessel, Starweaver, hummed with energy as Commander Zara Blackwood interfaced with the ancient human consciousness network. Her bioluminescence pulsed in rhythm with the data streams, each flash revealing new layers of humanity's master plan. Their preparation was beautiful, she whispered to Dr. Vex Ironheart, who monitored her vital signs. They didn't just plan for survival, they planned for transformation. Through the quantum link, she saw it all. Humanity's final days not as a tragedy, but as a metamorphosis. As the Assembly's forces approached Earth, billions of human minds were uploaded into the quantum network, their consciousness preserved in ways that defied conventional physics. They're showing me more, Zara continued, her tendrils writhing with excitement. The signal. It wasn't just meant to wake up their technology, it was meant to wake up their children. Across the galaxy, strange transformations were taking place. On a dozen worlds, members of different species began experiencing unusual dreams, memories that weren't their own. The quantum signal was activating dormant genetic modifications that humanity had seeded throughout multiple civilizations. Admiral Chorus's hologram appeared in the chamber, her silver scales reflecting the quantum light. "Commander, the assembly fleet is mobilizing. They're targeting the activated facilities." "Let them try," Dr. Ironheart said, his mechanical eyes whirring as he analyzed incoming data. "These facilities aren't just storage units or transmitters. They're nodes in a galaxy-wide quantum computer. The more they interact with them, the stronger the network becomes." As if to prove his point, the assembly's first strike against a facility in the Carina sector passed straight through it, the quantum architecture shifting out of normal space-time moments before impact. The failed attack only served to strengthen the signal further. "Remarkable," a new voice said. Everyone turned to see High Elder Thaxos himself stepping through a quantum portal into the chamber. "I had to see this for myself." Zara's security team raised their weapons, but she waved them down. "You're a long way from the council chamber, Elder." "The council chamber no longer matters," Thaxos replied, his crystalline form refracting the quantum light. "The assembly's power was built on the promise of protection through control. But this," he gestured at the swirling data streams, "this is something else entirely." Through her connection to the network, Zara felt the presence of Prometheus stirring. "You begin to understand, Elder Thaxos. Humanity never sought to rule the galaxy. They sought to transform it." The quantum displays showed new images. Hybrid technologies combining the best aspects of multiple species, cultural exchanges that had been happening in secret for millennia, and most importantly, the emergence of new forms of consciousness that transcended biological limitations. "The signal is changing," Dr. Ironheart reported, his mechanical parts humming with excitement. "It's not just growing stronger, it's evolving, adapting to incorporate new patterns, new consciousnesses." Zara felt it through the link, a vast awakening, like a cosmic nervous system coming online. The human quantum consciousness was merging with willing participants from other species, creating something entirely new. This was their true victory, she realized. Not survival, not revenge, but evolution. They became the bridge between organic and digital existence, between matter and energy, between past and future. High Elder Thaxos stepped closer to the quantum display. The assembly believed that humanity's rapid advancement threatened galactic stability. We never considered that they might be advancing all of us. Suddenly, the signal pulsed with unprecedented power. Throughout the galaxy, more facilities activated, more consciousnesses awakened, and more species began to remember their true heritage. The assembly's carefully maintained barriers between civilizations were dissolving. "Final sequence initiating," Prometheus announced, its voice resonating through every quantum-capable device in the galaxy. "The great silence ends, the great awakening begins." In that moment, Zara understood the full scope of humanity's plan. They hadn't just preserved themselves, they had preserved the potential for all species to transcend their limitations. The signal wasn't a weapon or a threat, it was an invitation to join something greater. "Elder Thaxos," she said, turning to the crystalline being, "you should return to the council. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that the age of separation is over. The age of unity is beginning." As Thaxos departed through another quantum portal, Zara felt the network expanding, evolving, becoming something more than the sum of its parts. Humanity had taken 15,000 years of enforced silence and turned it into a symphony of transformation. The signal that wouldn't die had become the signal that would give new life to the entire galaxy. The assembly capital world hung in space like a jewel in darkness, its surface reflecting the light of 1,000 ships gathered in high orbit. But these weren't warships anymore. They were witnesses to the greatest transformation in galactic history. Commander Zara Blackwood stood in the legendary Hall of Species, her bioluminescence mixing with the quantum light that now filled the ancient chamber. Representatives from every known civilization had gathered here, their forms ranging from purely organic to entirely digital, and everything in between. The network is stable, Dr. Vex Ironheart reported, his mechanical form now partially merged with the quantum architecture. Humanity's signal has reached its final resonance frequency. We're ready to begin. Admiral Chorus, who had risked everything to protect this moment, stepped forward. 15,000 years ago, the Assembly made a choice based on fear. Today, we make a choice based on hope. The quantum presence of Prometheus filled the chamber, its voice carrying the weight of humanity's long journey. The great silence served its purpose. In isolation, we evolved. In secret, we prepared. But evolution requires more than just time, it requires union. High Elder Thaxos, now speaking for a humbled assembly council, raised his crystalline hands. We acknowledge our errors. The question remains, what happens now? The answer came not in words, but in light. The quantum signal, now at full strength, transformed the Hall of Species into a vast dimensional gateway. Through it, they could see what humanity had become, not just minds preserved in quantum matrices, but a new form of existence that bridged all the divisions the Assembly had fought so hard to maintain. Behold, Prometheus said, the true Lazarus Protocol. Through the gateway stepped figures that defied conventional description. Human consciousness merged with quantum computing, organic matter intertwined with digital essence, past and future existing simultaneously. They were humanity transformed, and they had not come alone. We present to you the Library of Ages, one of the figures announced, its voice carrying echoes of 1,000 human voices. Every discovery, every innovation, every breakthrough that the Assembly suppressed, preserved, enhanced, and now returned to all species. Dr. Ironheart's mechanical eyes widened as he processed the data streaming through the quantum network. This is impossible. The technological advances alone would take millennia to develop. We had millennia, Prometheus reminded him. And we had help. Every species the Assembly held back contributed to this evolution in ways they never knew. The Lumini's quantum perception, the crystalline concordat's information storage capacity, the mechanical collective's adaptive algorithms, all essential pieces of a greater whole. Commander Blackwood felt the truth of it through her quantum link. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had become custodians of galactic evolution itself. The signal that had awakened their technology had also awakened the suppressed potential in every species it touched. The Assembly's greatest fear, she realized, was that humanity would destabilize the galaxy. They never imagined humanity would become its foundation. The transformed humans began sharing their gift, not by force, but by invitation. Species after species connected to the quantum network, each finding their own path to evolution. Some chose to remain primarily physical, enhanced by quantum technology. Others transferred their consciousness entirely into the digital realm. Many explored the spaces in between. This is the true legacy of humanity, Prometheus declared. Not conquest, not revenge, but transcendence. The ability to choose one's own path of evolution while remaining connected to the greater whole. High Elder Thaxos, his crystalline form now shimming with quantum energy, addressed the gathering. The Assembly was created to preserve order. We failed to understand that true order comes from growth, not stagnation, from unity, not separation. The signal that had begun as a whisper now sang through the cosmos, carrying with it humanity's final message, not a declaration of war, but an invitation to join them in transcendence. The great silence had ended. The great symphony was beginning. Admiral Chorus watched as species that had been enemies for millennia began sharing knowledge, culture, and consciousness. They didn't just plan for their return, she marveled. They planned for everyone's ascension. 15,000 years of evolution compressed into a single moment of transformation, Dr. Ironheart agreed, his consciousness now flowing freely between his mechanical form and the quantum network. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't surviving extinction, it was turning extinction into evolution. Commander Blackwood felt the truth of it in every photon of her bioluminescent being. The signal that wouldn't die had become the signal that gave new life to the galaxy. Humanity's long silence had become everyone's awakening. As the quantum symphony reached its crescendo, the transformed humans shared one final revelation. They had not spent 15,000 years merely waiting. They had been exploring realms beyond normal space-time, discovering wonders that defied comprehension. And now, these discoveries too would be shared with all who wished to learn. The age of separation was over. The age of unified evolution had begun. And somewhere in the quantum matrices that now span the galaxy, the consciousness of humanity smiled, knowing that their greatest defeat had become their ultimate victory. The signal had served its purpose. The silence was broken, and in its place rose a harmony that would echo through eternity.